Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Patafi. Yes, there are many things about politics that we can discuss, but this regional situation is very interesting, and we know what exactly India is doing, how it has held the entire region hostage to its own machinations. And that's why we are going to focus on what has been happening. India has continued to heat up LOC, line of control, and then we know what exactly is going on. We have discussed what has gone on in Kashmir as well. But since day before yesterday, the Indian defense minister actually said something which was very responsible regarding no first use. We were anticipating that some foreign power is at least going to intervene and going to talk to both the leaders. It happened yesterday. Donald Trump rang up India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and then he also spoke to the Prime Minister of Pakistan. This is significant in itself because India keeps on saying that it doesn't believe in any kind of mediation. But when it looks like mediation, when it sounds like mediation, it actually is mediation. And that is not all. We heard the Indian Prime Minister complaining about the language that they have been discussing coming from Islamabad, especially the fact that Indian ruling elite is being branded as fascist or Nazis. Well, if you object to that, then you'll have to change the entire history of India, especially RSS and BJP as well. We are going to talk about these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we have a very eminent panel. We have with us Dr. Zameer Awan Saab, an expert in foreign policy. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Air Commodore retired Basit Raza Abbasi Saab, a senior analyst. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And next to him is Ambassador retired Umar Ali Sherzai Saab, a career diplomat. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Dr. Saab, I have to start with you and I have to ask you to surmise what exactly is going on right now. If you were Narendra Modi, what was going on, would have been going on in your mind, sir?
Let me go back to a little bit background. Last few decades, India was trying its best to isolate Pakistan. And the international community was convinced with the Indian narrative about the Pakistan and the rest of the things.
Especially after 1999.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this incident, when India acceded to Jammu to Kashmir, the situation has changed.
Yeah.
United Nations Security Council has called a meeting. So it means that our narrative, Pakistan narrative, is promoted or recognized.
Right.
And especially if the Donald Trump talked to both leaders, it means that they are giving us the equal weightage.
Yeah.
Where we were ignored in the past.
No, actually, President Donald Trump spoke twice to Prime Minister Prime Minister Imran Khan.
Imran Khan.
Yeah.
In fact, we were ignored, or you can say for last few years at least, the West has written off Pakistan.
Right.
But now we are getting the recognition. We are coming back to the international community, and I believe international community is with Pakistan.
Right. And what exactly do you think Narendra Modi is going to do next?
We do not expect something good from him.
Okay.
Based on our experience, based on his ideology, and especially he is a more dangerous person now because he got the majority in its Lok Sabha or in the parliament. So they have the constitutional power to amend the constitution, to bring the changes, and they can go to any extent.
Right. Let me bring in Air Commodore Saab. Sir, your take on Narendra Modi's next moves, especially because there are people who think that this is the total extent of what he has done and what he is going to do. There are others who think, especially coming from Islamabad, we have heard this narrative that they might attack Azad Jammu and Kashmir as well.
My point is that there is saying that nothing succeeds like success.
Okay.
What Narendra Modi and BJP has been doing, it has been very successful. One success after the another. And the biggest success was in the Indian election, where they got a resounding majority. This was despite the debacle in February, 27th February debacle.
Despite that or because of that?
Actually, yes, you are right. You are right. They played it in their favor,
Yep.
and despite all the facts available, their pilot in our custody, the aircraft being shot down, and everything, they still believed what Modi was saying.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying, that he succeeded on that fallacy. Even those lies. There's another saying that lies may write prologue to a war, but truth pens the postscript. So this is what it is, that their lies have actually been accepted and bought by the world, their own polity first and the world at large. But the game is changing, the scenario is changing, and two very significant things took place. As Dr. Saab just said, that Indian efforts were to isolate Pakistan. They killed SAARC because that's where they had to sit with Pakistan.
Yeah.
And they created a BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal Initiative
We know
for
that, yes.
multi-sector. So all these things were to isolate Pakistan, and they were quite successful. But come 2018, there has been success
2019.
after 2019. I mean, mid of 2018, because the Doha talks started in October 2018. So those were the turning points that Pakistan actually started coming into limelight.
Right. As we move forward in the program, we are going to talk about Afghanistan as well, but let me bring in Ambassador Saab as well. So your take on what is going on in New Delhi and what exactly is going to be the next move?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I agree with Air Commodore Saab that after getting successes, Narendra Modi has become so powerful that he scrapped the constitution and made Jammu and Kashmir as part of Indian Union. He would not stay there.
Okay. Okay.
Having seen his role as Chief Minister and in Gujarat, what he did with Muslims, he would certainly not stop there, and his eyes would be now fixed towards our Kashmir as well.
Azad Jammu and Kashmir.
Azad Jammu and Kashmir. There is saying in Urdu that लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मरते. I think it is high time that we should also take some kind of action.
Okay. You mean some kind of kinetic actions?
Certainly, unless you show your teeth to the Indians that we are going to respond very fiercely, if you don't take back your constitutional amendments.
Okay.
Because it is a disputed area on which we have fought 3 wars.
Right.
And if we are just sitting silent for the United Nations resolutions and the world has never helped you and will never help you.
Okay.
God help those who help themselves.
Right.
So we have to.
You actually helped me come up with another question. We just heard Foreign Minister of Pakistan talking about Pakistan going to the ICJ, International Court of Justice. And in the past, we had this perception that perhaps because India is not going to accept the ICJ's jurisdiction, Pakistan won't be able to go. Now the government of Pakistan is probably talking about lawfare or any other method to approach ICJ. Do you think that it is a credible strategy?
Well, frankly speaking, I don't think it will produce any credible results, even if you go to the ICJ.
Right.
You have to demonstrate your power to the Indians and take some action on the ground.
Okay. Okay.
You have to mobilize your forces and to give a message to the Indians that we have already fought 3 wars on this Kashmir and we will go for another war.
Yeah.
And that is why we are keeping all this army and all these things. For what purpose?
Right. That is true, sir, but we are also keeping nuclear bombs, and the 2 countries are nuclear, so one has to talk about mutual assured destruction as well. I'm going to come back to you. Let me go back to Dr. Saab. Sir, both the questions. Is it time for some kind of kinetic actions, or we are already winning our case because we seem to be peaceful, and we are actually highlighting the kind of approaches India has actually taken. Secondly, ICJ.
If we go back to the history, of course, the Pakistan have to go the kinetic action. But recently, after February, our diplomacy has worked very well. And I believe diplomacy is the best weapon of the civilized world. And we get the recognition as a civilized world, peaceful nation. And this is very good in our favor. We should pay more attention on diplomacy. We should go to the International Court of Justice. We should go to any international platform, and we should go to all the capitals of the world, and we promote our diplomacy.
Diplomacy is war by other means.
This is a weapon.
Yeah.
This is a weapon. However, we also need to be ready for any consequences.
Okay.
We are a brave nation, and we are not afraid of any threat. And if there is something, we will sacrifice our lives, and we will fight till our last drop of the blood.
Right.
We should get ready for all the consequences, all
Right.
the options.
Dr. Saab, when I tweeted about this story, right, that Pakistan is probably going to go to ICJ, most of the people kept on highlighting that it might not be possible because India doesn't accept ICJ's jurisdiction on Kashmir. How exactly can this be managed, sir?
I think that it is still our victory. If we approach to the International Court of Justice and India deny it, who will be get black face? Of course, it is our victory.
Oh, we
the
are
winner.
way beyond blackface now. What India
I
has
mean,
done,
at least-
the way India has done it. I mean, it has been caught with the hand in the cookie jar, whether we like it or not, right? Even if then the world is not responding, there might be some problem with the world. Your take, Air Commodore Saab, what do you think going to ICJ?
I think we are talking in broad terms, the doables, what we can do.
Right.
I think there are many doables.
Okay.
First and foremost is national unity and cohesiveness.
Okay.
We must come out firm, all the opposition party, the government.
Do you
they
think
should-
we are there?
No, I don't see at the moment.
Why not?
Because there are voices of dissent and conflict
I
still
mean, they are
emerging.
now reduced to Twitter handles, hardly anything else.
True.
A couple of statements coming on television, who cares?
That's true. But I think still a more vigorous and more unified and coming from their hearts. This should
Now,
be come out
you're,
from our
you're,
nation.
you're talking about impossible yardsticks. How am I going to know it is coming from their hearts or not?
We are
And
talking of the
what
doable,
is the,
sir.
yeah?
We are talking of the doable.
Okay.
And I think these are doable.
Okay.
I mean, one has to try. We can reject many things without even trying. But I think the nation has always stood in case of threats. And this is an existential threat for Pakistan.
The world might not know it, but Narendra Modi is an existential threat to the entire world.
Exactly. I think more than anybody to India itself.
Yeah.
I see him as
but
a
India is gone, sir.
destroyer in chief
India
of
we
India.
knew is gone.
Exactly.
It's something new.
True. So our act is first the national cohesiveness, then next is going to all the international fora because we are the voice of Kashmir. And the Prime Minister has very rightly accepted this responsibility when he went to Azad Kashmir Assembly and said
He
that
stated.
now, from now on, I am the ambassador of Kashmir. And this is the role which each one of us has to play. Wherever we are, our diaspora in various countries, these demonstrations, these are the events which are going to wake up the conscious, perhaps going to wake up the conscience of the world
Right.
on the plight of the Kashmiris. And then all international fora like
The UN?
IOC,
OIC.
OIC,
OIC.
SCO, these are the forums available because as I said, the SARC is dead. That was the third forum. So on the all regional, national and the Islamic front.
Can't we actually revive SARC minus India?
Actually, you look at the countries. Bangladesh is not going to be with us till in the present government till they are there.
Bangladesh has very good rapport with China as well.
Sir, they didn't-
it will have good rapport with
Maybe,
us.
but they
Tomorrow, if again coming to going back to BJP shock and awe and Modi's shock and awe, I think that they're not going to stop at Azad Kashmir or
Yes.
Pakistan. They're going to head to Afghanistan and Bangladesh next. So this is their worldview. They are going to have Akhand Bharat.
That is true. I agree with you. But look at, see, I just mentioned BIMSTEC. Look at the nations in that. They are the same nations. Bangladesh is there, Nepal is there, Bhutan is there.
Myanmar is also there.
Myanmar, so some additions, some additives. Other it has been just been Sarak. So that is the way Indians are going to approach. And this is what I'm saying when I say SAARC is dead, because these are the constituent countries.
Right.
So except for one or two countries, nobody is going to favor Pakistan.
Right.
So our option is, next option is SCO, more potent forum, in which Russia, India and China are sitting there. So these are the forums we have to find ways, and out of box thinking is required to sort of activate these fora and raise a voice from there for Kashmir.
Right. Ambassador Saab, your statement about using the kinetic methods is under advisement. It is on one side. Of course, if the government is going to do it, it is going to do it. What else can Pakistan do to actually hammer on the message?
Sir, my personal opinion is that if we look at the history, take the case of Palestine.
So,
You know, the whole world has been talking about Palestine and the human rights and things like that. But as the Arabs themselves are weak, so nobody is going to listen to their cries. And Palestinian is as it was, and perhaps will remain as it is. Nobody is going to listen to their voice. Similarly, if you keep on waiting for the voice of the world and the UN resolutions that were passed back in 1948,
no, I
think we are
understand what
just
you're saying about Palestine, but then Bosnia also happened, Kosovo also happened, right? There were many, East Timor. There are examples where the UN has actually done its job.
Well, you know, there are lots of reasons why East Timor got independence in days.
Okay.
Because there were the Christian community.
Okay.
Here,
And
you
Bosnia,
know,
sir?
in Bosnia, they were the mixed Christian and Muslims and
Yeah, Muslims were being actually persecuted by the other Serbs and others.
yes, and after lots of efforts, they got the independence. But you know, that also is a very weak kind of country.
Right.
Then take our case of Kashmir. Since 1948, we have been crying. The human rights violations have been happening, and everything happened. You know, the two things have to be together. You have to show your force, so that the world is scared that you are going to take a drastic action
Okay.
in case, you know, the Indian atrocities in Kashmir are not stopped and the constitutional amendments are not taken back.
Right.
They would not stop unless you really convey them a very strong message that we will go to any extent.
Right. Right.
Just, well, of course, diplomacy plays its own part, but diplomacy alone cannot deliver unless it is coupled with some sort of potent power.
Right. Right.
So,
and
both
I'm going
these-
to talk about that potent power as well, because there is one fact which is there. There's such a thing as rational, irrational behavior, where you actually signal that you're also ready. We saw their defense minister actually doing exactly that. I was anticipating perhaps we are going to have a missile, test or something of that sort. That didn't happen. Can Pakistan or should Pakistan do something of that sort, sir? And secondly, here's another aspect. When you go to the UN, we know the rest of the permanent members, the 4 out of 5 P5, we know where they stand. One country where we find ourselves a little bit in difficulty is France, because of the agreements and everything. How can we work on France as well?
Let me say first, what is the perception about Pakistan after these crises? Pakistan image has emerged as a peace-loving nation,
Okay.
and especially about our leadership.
Right.
The West think that Pakistan's leadership is a visionary leadership. They know the consequences of war. They know the consequences of the nuclear war. So we are getting much better recognition in the world. The world environment is toward Pakistan in our favor. This we must understand.
No,
On
but
the other
you have
side-
to understand what Ambassador Saab is
Ji, ji.
saying. While you are being treated as the good boys, you have not actually risen to the top of the food chain. Until the time you don't attract that kind of attention, perhaps the world is not going to intercede. It is what he's saying.
We maintain that diplomacy at full throttle. At the same time, we should be get ready for all these consequences. Pakistan is a major state, and our leadership understand the consequences, and they are ready for that one.
Right. And France, sir.
About France, one of the biggest protests was in France, in front of the Eiffel Tower. So this means that people of France, they are standing with the justice, with the Pakistani narrative.
Yeah, but-
However, the
But
government,
people of France actually keep on protesting against their own government as well. So
And
that is the problem.
the government,
jackets.
due to economic interest, may be favoring India. But of course, these governments will not stand in the front of people of that country. Majority of the people are, if you see the masses, how many people are gathered there. So I mean that that's our favor, in our
Right.
favor.
Ekamuddin Sahab, your take on both the issues, especially given that you're a soldier, and secondly, also regarding France.
I personally feel that Pakistan has made its intentions very clear, both the peaceful one and the potential of war, what we can do. And the display in February was very significant. That is that we are always ready for a tit-for-tat response.
Yeah.
The
And amazingly, India has this break from reality where they still believe that they managed to down an F-16, although the entire world has told them that it is not the case. And secondly, the guy we actually downed and arrested and returned, they are representing him as a conquering hero.
Hero, yes, that's right. Actually, the problem with Indians is that they have a very successful film industry. They make
Okay.
wonderful films.
Very active imagination.
Yes, imagination. But unfortunately, now they have started living in that dream world.
Okay.
They think those films are reality. What they project in television is actually reality.
That would
but it's
be
not
because
reality.
Narendra Modi one fine day decides that he's going to meet all the actors and then actually take selfies with them, and after that all the right buttons are pushed. Is it what you are saying?
No, he's the actor-in-chief himself. Look at his turbans and those colorful things.
Yeah.
I mean, he's projecting
I mean, in
himself.
terms of optics, he keeps killing it.
Exactly. He's the master of that.
When you go to that cave and then
Yes.
he's sitting there and the cameras and all.
That's right. But these gimmicks, these things, they give you immediate benefits sometimes.
Right.
But in the long run, they are the losers.
But
It is not
here's the
wins.
thing. When I'm going to actually do a program like this one, I'm going to talk, of course. But when I'm going to make a documentary of sort, I have to show some visuals as well, just to appeal to your imagination. What you're saying that Pakistan is ready right now, what is the visual indication of that? Verbally, we are not saying much. We are saying that we are ready. But shouldn't we be also doing something to actually impress upon the enemies that we are ready?
Actually, there are certain problems which are being played behind the scene.
Okay.
Our FATF engagement, the IMF thing, these are the leverages which we don't want to disturb because we want to have that peaceful image. That is a need of the hour.
Okay.
So for the time being, let's play with the music, the way it's going on.
Okay.
But we know when
No,
we have to
but
raise the
nobody-
crescendo.
FATF doesn't stop you from conducting a missile test, does it?
No, true. But
Even IMF doesn't.
You know, actually, the tiger or even a cat, it has its nails in its paws. You know, it's not visible. But when there is threat, those things come out,
Right.
and that's what our posturing is.
And
that we have our
P5,
nails.
P5 nations, sir, how to approach them, especially France? A. Kamudar sir, question for you, sir.
I personally feel that here, again, when I was talking of doables, this should have been my second point. We got diverted. After national cohesiveness, we have to work on an economy. If our economy was better, they bought 100 Rafales order they placed. If you could place an order for 50 Rafales, we would have been in a better position. We would have better heard in France.
I know our.
But sir, actually, let me
our
allow me.
biggest point is economy. And
Allow me to say that certain things don't have immediate results. I mean, you don't, this is what Prime Minister said, that when he said that do you want me to attack India, this is what he meant, that there cannot be an immediate response at times.
Yeah.
You have to prepare your response, you have to pack your punches
Right.
and then deliver when there is the right time.
Right.
So this is what Pakistan has to do. And Pakistan's economic survival lies in CPEC.
By the way, I see one aspect of it particularly. When Prime Minister of Pakistan even talks about Narendra Modi and points out that they are inspired, their party is inspired by Nazis, I mean, even that pushes their button. And that means that we are doing whatever we are doing and it is having an impact. But Ambassador Saab, you are a diplomat. A question about diplomacy, how to cultivate that. One argument that we have been hearing in the past is our foreign office or special representatives should go and visit various countries and highlight the issue. But there is this argument which is usually forgotten that Pakistan also needs, at least in the P5 capitals, some kind of lobbyists. Do you agree with that assessment?
Of course, it is an important factor of the diplomacy that you have to have, unless you are a strong nation like US or China, then you have to have a lobby, especially when you have such enemies like India. You have to have lobbies, there is no doubt about that, and of course India has its own lobbies and lots of countries have their lobbies.
India has a lot of lobbies. Yeah.
So we have to have a lobby, of course, there is no doubt. But my own perception is that despite all these trumps that we are playing about the success of our foreign policy, I am really surprised if you have heard the news that Saudi Arabia Aramco is spending about more than $87 billion in India.
I heard of $15 billion.
I can explain.
Yes, sir.
Actually,
And similarly, UAE has much stronger relationship with India, despite the fact that they are our Muslim brothers and very close to us, and we on our own have always tried to help them whenever they were in trouble.
When you were actually giving the example of Palestine, that was the aspect that came to my mind. But with due respect, diplomacy doesn't usually have religion. It is a value neutral kind of thing. When you work on it, you succeed. It seems that Saudi Arabia and UAE want to keep India away from Iranian oil. And that's why they'll keep on throwing in the money. But that is their lookout. We have to look at what our concerns.
Well, India has a very successful foreign policy. You know, they are keeping excellent relations with Iran.
Yeah.
Iran has given them the Chabahar port from where all the Iranian goods would be exported.
Yeah.
And lots of other activities that they are doing together.
Yeah, because they have money, right?
Kulbhushan was playing, you know, all the way from Iran in your country in Balochistan, and you know, India has a very, to be very honest, a very, very successful foreign policy.
Okay.
We just by convening a meeting of the United Nations Security Council, we are, you know, every day and night you hear on the TV and that we have a successful foreign policy and this and
Nobody
that.
is saying
You know,
that.
This is
That's why you're here.
this
That we
is-
want to learn from you how to improve foreign
This is
policy.
just-
because I've never served Ambassador Saab as an ambassador.
It is
I
just-
mean, we are talking about foreign policy which is run by ambassadors
Sir-
and diplomats.
sir,
but
to-
Air Commodore Saab
Sir, ma'am,
wants to respond.
it is just to befool ourselves. Frankly
Okay.
speaking, it is not a very successful foreign policy as yet.
Right. The Air Commodore Saab, your take, sir.
If I were to name what Ambassador Saab was talking, he was talking of realpolitik with
Yeah.
a K in the end. So this is my interest first. So you very rightly said the Arab countries whom you named also, they are interested in selling their oil. And as we all know, the oil market is shrinking. So they are actually fighting for the market share. Now, why did they go to Reliance? And they invested $15 billion to get a stake of $75 billion in Reliance Industries,
Right.
their refining business. This is the biggest oil refinery in the world. It has it refines 1.36 million barrels per day, and it's being upgraded to go to 2 million barrels. And Saudis have a deal that they will buy 500,000 barrels of oil per day from Saudi Arabia for long term. So this is their interest that they wanted to secure, sir. And this is why they sort of put the younger Muslim brother on a side
No,
and
I
went for their
understand
business
that,
interest.
and I understand the concerns that Ambassador Saab was actually expressing. I understand that historically India has had a lot of soft power, its diplomacy, its money, its hard power as well. But now it seems that something seems to be shifting. Western publications hardly used to criticize India. I mean, they would take Trump to task, they would take Netanyahu to task, but now finally we have started seeing people who were critical of Pakistan coming out and criticizing the kind of thing India has done. Do you think that, is it correct to actually attribute the success of the past to the current government and the way it is playing its part? Indian government.
I personally feel that both the leaders superimpose on the events and the events superimpose on leaders.
Right.
There is a wave. Look at what American has done with Israel. They have annexed Golan Heights, and America said, very well done, no problem. So this is a wave. And on the other hand, you say that the rightist parties in Europe have an ascendancy now. In America, there's a struggle between the rightists and the new anti-fascist, Antifa movement that's taking place.
Antifa is also a violent movement. I don't want to go there, but they are the same people from two extremes.
Antifa is actually anti-fascist. So
But
the
they are
rightists-
militant. If you Google it, they are militant organizations.
Sir, this is the
So-
point that when you have we are dealing with power, you have to sort of have some power in
No,
you.
but when Taliban, TTP was fighting with government of Pakistan, I didn't want to take weapon and start fighting myself, right?
That's
and this is the humble submission. You are right that America seems to treat, right now, under Donald Trump, treat various developments not based on, perception of niceties, but on realpolitik. Right now, do you think that India is really that successful, or this lot is actually bringing bad name to their foreign policy by doing what they are doing right now?
My view is that this policy will not be very successful in the long
Right.
run.
Your take, Dr. Saab.
Well, let me remind this question.
Yeah, I was talking about how successful or unsuccessful India's foreign policy is right now. I mean, after 50 years, as you said, the issue you have been blocking at the UN manages to end up at UNSC. Whether you had the kind of readout or not, that is not the issue. The fact that you ended up actually bringing the matter to the UN.
I think that it is success for Pakistan, but we still have to do a lot of homework, and we still have to go a lot, much more than this, beyond than this one. it is just good turning, good start, and it is good change.
Okay, now let us actually switch the gears and focus on Afghanistan.
Yes, that's
Your take on Afghanistan right now?
Yes.
How soon do you think that there is going to be some breakthrough in Afghanistan?
In fact, Taliban
Sir.
and US administration are talking directly with each other. In fact, the link between Taliban and the American administration has as long as 40 years since the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. It was the US administration who established the Taliban, who trained the Taliban, who provided them the weapons, who provided them the money. And between after that withdrawal of the Russian troops, there was a little bit gap.
Taliban or Northern
It is the
Alliance?
Taliban. It was the Taliban.
Taliban or Northern Alliance? Because at that time all the Mujahideen were.
Yes, it was combined.
Later they actually
But still,
culminated into.
they were the heroes of the American government, and they used to be welcomed by the White House. They have the good banquets and were welcome in the White House. And again, they are meeting with each other. So the
Ronald
American
Reagan actually called them equivalent to the founding fathers of,
Yes,
of America. Yeah.
Anyhow, now they are talking with each other directly. Pakistan is playing the role of facilitator, and American has realized for the 18 years of the war, they could not get any success.
Okay.
Even that the government of Hamid Karzai or the government of Ashraf Ghani, they have supported them out of the way, but they cannot deliver anything to the expectation of the American. And now Donald Trump has decided to go for the peace and withdraw of the troops from Afghanistan.
Sir.
And I believe President Trump is a man, is hardliner leader. If he decided, he will go ahead.
Yeah.
He will not consider the consequences. He will not take the U-turn. He will go ahead and he will remove his troops from Afghanistan.
I understand when you call him hardliner, you mean that he means what he says, right?
Yes, but yes,
and then
in this
he
sense.
tries to actually put it into action. Otherwise, this hardliner in 4 years hasn't started a single war. And all previous presidents have been actually waging wars
Waging wars,
for
yes.
quite some time. Air Commodore Saab, how optimistic are you, sir, that we are going to hear some big breakthrough from Doha or Kabul?
I'm very optimistic.
Okay.
For many reasons, because as far as you have just analyzed the personality of Donald Trump, I agree with you. I also see him as a man of peace, at least in his first term. I do not know what he will do in his second term, but in this first term, he's a man of peace.
In,
he has
in the
stepped
second
on
term,
to
he's going to get 3 or 4 Nobel Prizes if he succeeds.
yes. Okay. So at the moment, he has shook hand with the Korean North Korean leader, and I mean his
He
overtures
went to
have been.
DMZ. I
They're
mean,
right.
come on.
He stepped
The first
into their
president.
soil, you know. So he is very serious because this was his promise before election, and he's going to prove to the nation that what he was saying, and many people opposed him then, has proved to be right in the long run.
Right.
And the biggest proof of that would be withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan.
Right.
And if you noticed, day before yesterday, there was a meeting in White House in which all the people, Bolton and Pompeo and everybody was present. Zalmay Khalilzad was also there. And they said very clearly, they gave it a name to the peace process. They said the agreement on peace and reconciliation with Taliban and Afghan government is going to take place.
Right.
This is a statement from White House day before yesterday.
Can you give us any idea of a timeline now?
In my analysis, I see that by the end of this year.
By the
although-
end of this year,
By the end of this
not
year,
this month.
that will be too optimistic because actually there are 2 points on which there was a lot of conflict. Negotiation with the Afghan government. This is
Right.
what the Americans want. And the Taliban, they want a timetable for the withdrawal of American troops. There's a catch.
Okay.
When you give a timetable, the other party, the opposing party, is emboldened.
Yeah.
That is what happened when Obama announced a date that we are going to withdraw.
Yeah.
So Taliban actually focused on to that date, and they actually knocked the, I mean, they suffered a lot of hardship, the Americans,
Yeah.
from, because they knew that they have limited time and they have to get out.
I thought
So-
that you are going to talk about the hardships faced by Taliban.
No.
But
Taliban actually, sir,
let me go
let me
back to-
finish.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me finish this.
Please, sir.
So this is what I feel, and the next year, the early part will be withdrawal of U.S. troops.
Right.
I see it happen.
Right, that is interesting. But Ambassador Sherzai, one sad development, actually two sad developments that took place right when we heard that the US and Taliban might be very close to signing the deal. An attack took place in Quetta, attacking the Taliban's heads' relatives in the mosque. And another attack took place in Kabul, where ISIS has actually claimed responsibility. Is it some kind of signaling from people who might have actually tried to use what happened in Kashmir to derail this process? When it didn't happen, now they're trying to signal that even if Taliban cut deals, ISIS will be there and it will try to sabotage on our behalf?
Well, you know that there are lots of detractors that they try to.
I see only one, Ajit Doval. Go ahead.
Not only one, you know, Afghanistan now a conduit for all those forces who are opposing Pakistan and Pakistan's policies. There are Israelis, there are Indian raw people, and the Afghan Khad and all those agencies. They are all trying to sabotage this peace process.
When you
Because
say hard, you mean NDS, right?
Yes, of course, raw is there, and
Very raw.
India has a lot of investments in Afghanistan, and simply for the purpose to use that soil against Pakistan.
So,
And they know that if the Taliban, the American moves out of Afghanistan, then it would not take long time for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan.
okay.
And they can foresee the danger ahead of the Taliban's rule in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So they are making all out efforts to sabotage this peace process. But having said that, as Donald Trump is committed, you know,
To the
even
withdrawal.
in his earlier election, that he will withdraw the forces, and now the elections in US are also coming close. So he has to fulfill that promise and withdraw his troops. And that is why that he is absolutely uncomfortable with the slow process of the negotiations. And
Yeah, he is.
therefore, he is calling meeting in the White House and calling Zalmay Khalilzad and Pompeo and all those, because he wants to expedite the withdrawal of the forces from Afghanistan as per his promise before the election process starts in US.
So you are optimistic, right, sir?
Well, I am optimistic, and but at the same time, we have to be very, very careful of the emerging situation in Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the American forces.
We have to stay awake and keep on following it. I'm told, sir, we have run short of time. There were 4 interventions in my ears
Certainly.
that we have to conclude the program. Ambassador Sherzai, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Air Commodore, sir, thank you very much for your time as well. Dr. Zameer Awan, sir, thank you very much for being here as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Of course, we started with India and we had to end with Afghanistan, but here are two very important things. When you look at what India has done in Kashmir, it seems to be an untenable position. It seems to be a kind of overreach, and whenever you have an overreach, it cannot be consolidated or solidified for a very long period. Let us see how Ajit Doval's overactive imagination has hurt or will hurt India. When it comes to Afghanistan, of course, there's this peddling of propaganda that somehow everybody seems to be strengthening the hand of Afghan Taliban through this deal. It seems other way around. It seems to be actually strengthening one man's hand and through him another man's hand. That is the hand of Zalmay Khalilzad, and through that actually Donald Trump. So one has to actually go beyond all this negative perception and propaganda and see what is happening. Let us hope peace comes to Kashmir, peace comes to Afghanistan as well. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.